So we are here with Liz.
Hi.
Say hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Um,
Good
uh,
choice.
I want to start out pretty chill. So
Mhm.
maybe you can just give us a brief intro to who you are and yeah, why you think you're here and how we know each
Why do you think you're here? So let's see. When did we meet? Like, I'm going to say 10 years ago.
I think it was longer than that.
Okay,
I
let's
think it was, like,
pretend.
substantially longer than that. It was,
Okay,
like, I was so I okay, you went to school with my ex, who I dated for 10
yes.
years,
hmm
and we met, I think, pretty early in my relationship with him,
That sounds
which
right.
was, like, early to mid-20s, and
Shit.
I'm now 41, so
Yes. I am an unspecified age. Be
yeah, no, I'm not gonna put you in there. You were younger you were definitely younger than me.
Yes. Not that much, but yes. Yeah, that sounds right. And let's see. I went to Dartmouth, right, with your ex, and I studied government there. I thought I was going to be a lawyer or a lobbyist, which obviously neither happened. I would be poorly suited to either. But I kind of fell into content marketing after college. So I was doing in advertising. So I've always been a writer of some sort or another. And that it was sort of a boom in content marketing when we graduated college.
Yeah,
So I ended up working at a bunch of big publishers like HuffPost, AOL, eventually the New York Times, building out these branded content studios, which are sort of, in my opinion, a magnet for like creative people who needed to pay their rent. So
yeah, fair enough.
yeah. So I lived in New York for like 13 years. And then in 2020, I moved out here to Los Angeles and to kind of give it a go with comedy writing and writing for television, which I've been definitely trying to do. So now I usually describe myself as a comedian and a writer, but still a marketer as well. So I'm
Hey.
a weird little mishmash of things. I'm currently like an independent consultant. I'm doing a lot of content marketing work for people. Mhm.
But broadly in the writing space, and I should say you are very funny. So
Oh my God, thank you.
and yeah, I mean, I think the thing that made me want to talk to you at least was
Yeah.
I've been, as you've seen from, I know you saw some of my other content, um focused on AI with a hopeful but also critical lens.
Mhm.
And I'm coming at it from, my background is a product manager. So I'm coming at it from like a very techie angle, although importantly, like Europe tech. So like not California, not Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
And it's, I mean, having a big impact in a lot of places, but I mean, the thing that LLMs do is they mimic human language. They
Mhm.
create human language. So it was super interesting to get your perspective or hear your perspective as a writer.
Definitely. And that's the other reason I believe I'm here is that I have lots of opinions on this topic, which
Yes.
I readily word vomited to you over text when I saw your content. Yeah. I would say I share your values and or whatever general vibe of optimism but skepticism at the same time about this technology for sure. I'm I'm generally very eager and excited to use new tech and figure out what it can do and how it can move us forward or make my life easier, whatever it is. So I've spent a lot of time with LLMs. I've also more recently been exploring them i- in terms of how they can apply to my work. Like I partner with one agency in particular who's very bullish on like GEO or like SEO
Yeah.
via
Okay. Yes.
ChatGPT
Yes.
is really
Yeah.
what it is, right?
I didn't actually know that term yet.
Well,
Yep.
that's because everyone's making shit up all the time. But
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah,
Probably fed by ChatGPT.
almost
You should
certainly.
call this
Yeah.
yo.
Yeah, exactly. The other one is AEO, which is perhaps more accurate, but just weird, but like the answer engine optimization. But
Okay.
regardless, so I've just done a ton of research in that and how LLMs behave as answer engines, I suppose,
Yeah.
which I'll go ahead and spoil it. I don't think they're very good at, but
Yeah.
but anyway,
No, and I think we that's where we share some of the
yeah.
skepticism. I'd love for you to start just by telling us a bit about, um, your initial like go back a few years to
Yeah.
ChatGPT just
Mhm.
launching.
Yeah.
What has been your trajectory with AI, both personally and then professionally as well?
Yeah. So I'll say this. I out of the gate was like, I doubt it's particularly brilliant of a creative. Um, and for whatever that's worth. So I kind of tested the boundaries of that, I guess, when 3.5 came out in late 2022, I believe.
Mm,
And there was at the time, might have to check the exact date, but we're sort of in the midst of these strikes out here in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry and how AI could be used.
can you, just for people that may not be aware, just give a little
Yeah.
bit more context around that?
Yeah, for sure. So Hollywood is a very, especially the creative side, is a very, or production side rather, is a very unionized industry. So the largest, most relevant ones for this discussion are the WGA, which is the Writers Guild. So that's every TV writer. Basically, if you're going to get money from a studio at any point in time, you have to be. And they have agreements with all of the
Yeah.
studios, right? For like minimums and all of that. Just rules of engagement. And then the other relevant one for this is the actors. Oh my God, SAG-AFTRA. So similarly, usually those discussions are about, minimums, like what's the minimum you can get paid to write a script, that sort
Mm,
of thing, or to appear, have more than 5 lines in an episode of television, whatever it is. And this time around, these 2022, 2023 strikes, AI was a big issue. There was a concern on the actor's side of their image being captured and used to create like an artificial version of themselves. Understandably, I believe that is being done.
yeah.
On the writer's side, obviously it was, I don't, it's funny. The most practical thing people were worried about, like out of the news, just writers talking, is I don't want a studio to bring me something ChatGPT wrote and ask me to rewrite it and make it good.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone who's spent time with an LLM and is a writer is worried like they can do the whole thing, to be honest,
Yeah.
right? But there is a concern of having to like work with that in a way. Anyway, so I wouldn't say that was the reason for the strikes, but it was a very hot issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, every actor and writer in Hollywood and in New York as well, and wherever they are in America, went on strike for quite some time before
Wait,
the
and
strike.
wait, so it was more about like having to work. Was there any element of like, I imagine if you have to revise something that an LLM wrote in the first instance, like there's an assumption there that, okay, well, like, you didn't have to do as much work, so it's not going to require as many people, and so there's still, even if it's not like wholesale replacing
Yep.
writers, it's like
Yep.
replacing some of the writing work,
Yes,
and then.
I would, which is, by the way, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I guess the other thing that comes to mind is like, but like, I didn't follow. I mean, I followed this in the news broadly when it happened, but like, I
Mhm.
don't remember most of it myself. So these are like not for the audience. These are just my questions. Like I also heard and would imagine that, um, for people that have written things that were then being used to train
Yeah,
models, that's
sure.
also a complaint.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, you don't. If you've been hired by a studio to write a draft of something, or you're employed as a writer on a TV show, you don't own the IP.
Yeah, fair enough.
So in terms of,
Really?
yeah, I know, right? People don't know
Yeah.
that. You're pretty much
No, it's
using
your,
AI.
I mean, when you say it, it makes sense, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't actually have it in mind.
Yeah, yeah. You really work for hire. So it's, yes. Pretty much no one owns anything except for the
Yeah.
studios. So I think that, yes, like there's a distaste. There's certainly ugh, I don't want my work training LLMs, but like the practical concern is more what you're saying. Uh, One of the sticking points, at least for writers, was size. I mean, a couple different things, but like, okay, gosh, this is getting in the weeds, so I'll try to keep it short. But television seasons have gotten much shorter
Hmm.
with streaming, and not that long ago, you would get hired to write for an
Well,
entire.
sorry, but I'm going to make you go. Why?
No, go for it. Why?
Yeah.
It's better for the streaming business model. I would say most people in this industry don't know that, but that is the case.
Oh, like people have short attention
No,
spans.
it's not that. It's okay. So the in the broadcast model that's entirely driven by advertising in terms of
Yeah.
revenue, it was advantageous. And to be fair, more people were watching broadcast TV to have like 22-ish episodes of TV that you could sell a certain amount of ad. It's just like looking at the balance of cost versus revenue, right?
Yeah.
And on streaming, that doesn't appear to be the case. My understanding, obviously I don't like work in programming at a streamer, but is that doing like a 6 to 8 episode run of a show on streaming, like when the metric is just like reducing churn and or signing up new
Yeah.
subscribers, that's enough. So there's no point in, I know.
Interesting and sad.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Right? Especially since, well, I mean,
No, but
so much.
like you just want to be able to say, like, I can imagine, and again, I'm just kind of making it up in my head. I don't know what the actual conversations are, but like I can imagine everybody just wants like the most number of hit TV shows on their platform, because like it's not like how many episodes of the TV show that you have. It's like the number of shows. And so like pay as little as possible for as many as possible, but keep them short so you don't have to pay like actors and all the people that are making the shows as much.
Yeah, pretty much. And I suppose it's more complex than that, but it's not that much more complex than that. Like it's just the business model doesn't reward a 22 episode season of original television. So I will say I have hope that with the rise of more ad-supported streamers, like the fast services, just free ad-supported streamers, that we'll get longer seasons again. Just as a viewer, I would like that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's where that sucks for writers, is it used to be employed for most of the year. So, and you get paid every, like by the week in essence, right? For being in the writer's room. And because there was a large volume of episodes, you'd get a pretty large writer's room and you'd have different levels within it. So there were opportunities for new writers to come in as like the lowest level staff writer, and you kind of move up this ladder. That was the whole system. And for a, 6 episode order of, I don't know, I don't want to pick on one platform in particular, but like, I was going to say Wednesday. It's a good show though. You don't need as many writers as you would for like, Friends or whatever, or even like Abbott Elementary. So in essence, writers' rooms were getting smaller, episode orders were getting shorter. So writers were having to take more than 1 gig a year to just like be able to pay your rent, which really sucks.
Yeah.
So there's more to it than that. But basically one of the sticking points was a certain minimum duration of a writer's room and like a minimum staff, meaning like HBO Max can't just be like, all right, you get 4 writers for the show. It's like, no, if you're ordering a season of television, it needs to be 8 or whatever. I don't remember the actual number at this point. But anyway, all of this is relevant because while that was the biggest sticking point, perhaps, that area, you could see where one could argue on the studio side, well, you don't need that many writers. You don't need more junior writers. Like AI can polish scripts for you.
Yes.
Or, right. Yes. And you don't need, right. You don't need 10 weeks pre-production because AI can come up with storylines for you. Right. There you go. So that was the backdrop of when, it's a very long way to say, when I really first started using ChatGPT, I wanted to, so if you're looking to get staffed on a show, you have to have a bunch of writing samples. So a couple like original pilots, and it can be beneficial to have an episode you write of an existing show. So I wrote a spec script for Rick and Morty. Mm-hmm. And for funsies, I decided, I think I told you a little bit about this, but to let ChatGPT come up with storylines, because I was like, I'll bet these are bad. And boy, were they. This was 3.5. And I just centered one of the plots, the B plot, around one of the characters like going on adventures, quote, quote, like that ChatGPT came up with. And they just didn't have any legs, or they were literally something they'd already done, just with like slightly different phrasing, super derivative. So I think that was my first real like foray into using an LLM for a creative purpose and kind of finding the limitations therein. I certainly was open to them being better than that, but what was interesting and what I found in the actual writing of the script was where they tended to fall flat. You know what I mean?
I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. One of the ideas was, do you know Rick and Morty at all?
I think I said this to you before. I've watched.
Like you should know it.
I watched an episode or two, and I'm embarrassed to admit that because you're like the 30th person
Right.
that told me that I
Right.
need to,
Yeah.
binge watch the whole thing. Probably.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe not in this political climate. It's a little dark, but so it's very sci-fi-y, meaning, and there's a lot of just like magical type elements, meaning, one of the main characters has a portal gun that he can just like shoot, and like you can go into any universe, any timeline, whatever. So it's very expansive in terms of
Yeah.
storytelling, right? And so one of the ideas I came up with was, they visit a universe, Rick and Morty, where no one has any emotions or something like that. And of course, because ChatGPT is very eloquent, or eloquent might be the wrong word, fluid,
Yeah.
smooth, if you will, wrote up this idea. And I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like something. We'll see. But then once I actually took the characters there and started writing the scene, it's like there's no like tension. There's no comedy in that. There's like the one quick hit of a joke of like two people having like a passionate conversation with no emotion, but then it's like, where's the story from here?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so it was just a lot of cycling through these ideas from ChatGPT and having the characters try to play them out, and then just them falling pretty flat.
And what was, I mean, were you going back and forth with ChatGPT? Were you, like, were
Yes.
you co-writing or yeah?
Oh God, co-writing. So funny. I literally said, I want to come up with, I'm sure I gave it a number, 8 ideas for a plot for an episode of Rick and Morty, specifically for Rick and Morty, specifically them going on an adventure, something like that.
Yeah.
And I would say I usually ask for like 8 of any idea, because half of them don't work out of the gate. So I think that happened. And then I probably asked for more. And I was like, well, these 3 have literally already been done. So give me some new ones. So yes,
Yeah.
I went through a couple cycles to make sure I was looking at something that looked like a good idea. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I like didn't want it to fail, weirdly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Right?
It's weird because it does. First of all, there's this whole problem of it being like sycophanty, right? Like a people pleaser, but it's like it's kind of nice. Like
For
it
sure.
pulls
It
you
really
into.
wanted to give me good ideas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
Yeah,
know I'm
I could
anthropomorphizing, but
also
yeah.
appreciate that, like, we're human and we're super susceptible to that. It's
Yeah.
like, this idea that like, I think dogs and cats evolved big eyes because they're domesticated, and like it
Yeah.
makes us think of like babies and like want to
Mhm.
mother them and love them and take care of them.
Or
Like,
just not let them die.
or just not let them die. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like it's trying to please us. It's
Yeah.
trying to, like, the metrics. I mean, I think that was actually the issue, like with the ChatGPT release, that was overly
Mhm.
ingratiating, is that like they put too much weight on like user feedback.
Yeah.
um, and it turns out people just like when they're agreed with all the time. But it makes you want to like root for it in a way. Like
Yes.
you want
Yeah.
it to be helpful. You want it to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about sort of the danger of humanizing the LLM, but like
Yeah,
I'm a realist and it talks to me in natural language. So of course I like think of it like that. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yes, you know what I
100%.
mean? But yeah, I really was. I was like, I feel bad. It's trying so hard to come up with good creative ideas. And it's like, as a creative, whether it is in advertising or screenwriting, you're used to giving candid feedback and receiving it. So it was kind of like, I'm giving it notes. I'm like, okay, well, here's where this falls. And it really kept trying, but it couldn't quite do it.
But contrast that with, I mean, this is maybe a little ridiculous, but purposefully so. Like,
Yeah,
contrast that with like how it would typically work with a human.
sure. Well, first things first, the people I generally give notes on scripts are experienced writers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, uh, when there is just much more of a true collaboration of being like, I just had a meeting with someone yesterday. Let's see, something like we're coming up with a new concept together, this friend and I, for a show that she wants to pitch to her agents, and the idea is kind of like okay, remember how I used to have Carolyn's registered companion thing? So this is for the listeners, a friend of ours who worked for American Airlines. And when you work for an airline, you get to travel. Like you have these amazing travel benefits, and you can have like one person that you designate as your registered companion. Anyway, so it's like kind of an idea around that. So we're building out who this character would be that gets to take all these trips. And one of the ideas we had is that she's sort of a grifter. Like she got this like this crazy, like, you know, like life-threatening diagnosis, but it turns out it was a mistake, but she like doesn't tell anyone it was a mistake, right? Anyway, that's a fine and interesting idea. But as we were building out what the story would be, I was like, you know what, this just feels like at one point I was like, you know what, this feels like a separate idea. Like I can do a whole other show character around that. And like I don't even think I finished the sentence and she understood what I was saying.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because this. So there's that just like fluidity. If I were giving a more like junior and inexperienced writer notes, you teach them something in giving the notes, which is not something you can do to ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
you might say something like, you know, what's the game of this scene? Like what's or that's too complicated. Sorry, back up. You may say something like, what's the central tension for this character against the plot, right? What's the character trait and their intrinsic flaw? Let's say that they're, I don't know why I'm on Friends today. I haven't watched Friends in like 10 years. But like Monica on Friends is like a classic neurotic, right? Clean freak. How do we make that funny? We put her in a situation where that gets inflamed, where that gets triggered. Like you put her in a mess, whatever that is. So I like explain something like that before saying the situation you put her in, like, isn't a clear enough contrast to create the comedy that we want to get, you know, in this plot, something like that. But like I would, Mike, I would try to say this stuff to ChatGPT. I'd be like, I've wasted so many hours being like, here's the thing about like contrast, or here's the thing about plot, you know, like you need to hit this point of no return and then all this stuff. And it's like, got it. And it took me quite a while to understand, like, it was just saying got it, but I can't teach it anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious because you literally can't teach it. Like
That's correct.
it only learns when a model is being trained.
Correct. People don't know
And
that.
no, I know. And then it's released, and then the only quote unquote learning it does is by including previous things that you've told it in the context window. So like kind of plugging behind the scenes into the prompt things that you've passed it before. And so I'm like, so learning, absolutely not the case, but like, did it pick up on anything? Did it try at
I mean, do
all?
you think ChatGPT can understand when I
No.
explain comedic contrast to it? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
I don't think you can teach an LLM craft. I know that sounds very lofty, but like, I don't know what I learned. And listen, like I had not written a script until like 2020. Like this was like definitely a later in life move on my part, you know, of just trying to fulfill whatever dream I'd always secretly had. But it took years for me to write a good script. Truly, I wrote plenty. It was like I look at them now and I'm like, this is so awful. But yeah, I think those are lessons you learn. You can hear them a bunch of times, but then you just have to write so many bad scripts before you can write a new one, you know? And I'm sure that's true of a lot of art, right? Anyway, yeah, that's the answer.
Um, I Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me, and the thing, not to, I'm I'm kind of grasping for things in my life that
Mhm.
where I feel sort of the same, and one of the areas that I've seen that I will go to ChatGPT for, by the way, is like dating advice, and
Nice.
I mean, dating advice probably in general. I definitely do try to very often unsuccessfully use ChatGPT as a therapist, but specifically like when you're texting with someone. I am single right now, and so like dating,
Mhm.
and you're trying to arrange dates, kind of say the right thing,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. I cannot believe with all of the content that is out there, both fiction, nonfiction, about this exact thing, like literally actual scripts. And I mean, there, you can go on YouTube and there's so much content like recommending just how to respond to text to like get somebody to go on a date with you.
Wow.
There's a lot. Yeah, I'm not going to be too honest about how many times I've gone down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
and so you would think that it could be somewhat natural, and I wish I had a good example of this, but it always says things that are
Uh-huh.
so cringe, that are
Yeah.
so, like they're either over the top in a weird way, or it just like it's this moment where it's feel like, oh, you're not human. Like it's when
Uh-huh.
you're playing with these, if you want it to just kind of give you a very generic answer, or maximize only one thing, or give you something that's even like very like business jargony, it's kind
Yeah.
of good.
Oh,
Like
it's wonderful at giving you
but then
words that say
yeah,
nothing.
but then you're not you're doing like what humans do when they're kind of at their worst in a
Yeah.
way. Like we, before AI came on the scene, we were already producing like a ton of like slop LinkedIn posts and like
100%.
addictive social media apps, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But like that's when we're literally we just have one metric that we're going after. When it becomes more what you I love the fact that you use the word craft, when it becomes, and I actually don't even know how you would define craft, but for me, it's more of an art. It's more, there's multiple things that you're trading off against. It's not really possible to get there by just focusing on like optimizing for a single variable
Yeah.
or a single metric. And so you have to like, I mean, we call it taste or whatever. You have to develop this like very sort of subtle skill that can trade off against many we do it unconsciously,
Yeah.
many things at the same time,
Yeah.
all of which were probably honed in a particular way, and then also like inject your like little bits of randomness and weirdness and quirkiness into it, which like is, for me at least as a consumer of humor, is like so important to that and
Yeah.
storytelling in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I I I'll keep it vague. I don't want to embarrass said friend, but I had a friend who was using ChatGPT in a professional context to try and confront a annoying, problematic boss about chaos they were creating by just the way they were running the business, right? Though it just like, hey, like this isn't smart. Let's go back to strategy, whatever. We've all been in a situation like that. But what ended up happening, I think they were loath to be direct about it because it was their boss, right?
Yeah,
And so they're using ChatGPT and they're sharing some of these drafts with me. And I'm just like, you're not saying what you want to say. You know, ChatGPT is saying stuff that sounds kind of like what you want to say, but you know what you want to say.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
going to get this, your boss, and not get what you're saying. You're being indirect, right? You're using ChatGPT to like not be vulnerable and authentic, which no shade because it's your boss. There are stakes there, right?
yeah,
But it really, to me, illustrated what GPT is both great at, quote unquote, but also kind of fails us in a way, right? Like a lot of the times I'll have it proofread sometimes and it will catch actual mistakes, which I appreciate. But other times it'll be like, oh, let me smooth over the language a little bit. And I'll be like, I don't want my language smoother. Like, I don't know this smooth language. And this is to the point about dating and texting. I'm
yeah.
not sure smooth language benefits anyone. I think that is what makes it not engaging, not human. Like there's nothing to grab onto, you know?
I mean, I 100% agree, and I also think in an age of ChatGPT, like when I see something now that is a little bit sloppy, like whereas before I might be like, before AI, I might have been like critical of that
Yeah,
person or the content. Now I'm almost like, thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
I really, I'm like, I it's a sign of humanity. And
100%.
it is, I mean, even it's weird doing these podcasts now. The last episode, no, 2 episodes ago that we recorded, which we're just gonna release this week, we're calling it like the bad episode because we didn't really prepare. We kinda like, this is my co-founder Thomas. We kinda like, I don't know, we were tired. We like fell apart. And I'm watching some of that content back and I'm like, this is maybe the best podcast that we've ever
Delightful.
done.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I back to my I have such weird optimism around a lot of this, but for me it's like I understood the fear if I go back to those strikes and writers being worried. But I'm also like, in the short term, yes. In the short term, people who don't understand the craft, perhaps on the business side, might push to use. I mean, we're seeing it across industries now. This was 2 years ago, right, or more. Like these tools being pushed on people that aren't actually helping them do their work, right? So in the short term, there's that. But in terms of just writing, like over time, it becomes obvious that I don't know, like the value of actually good creativity goes up because you're just so relieved to see it, you
Yeah,
know? Like I think I saw a tweet from at Jack, from Jack Dorsey, right? Who
yeah.
talking about reviving Vine and having it be like a no AI social network.
I
And
didn't see that's very
yeah. I
interesting,
don't know if it's
actually.
actually happening,
Yeah.
but what was remarkable to me was that the comments were just like, oh, please, like
Yeah,
overwhelming, just like pages and pages of like, please, that would be amazing. Like, I would love
I
to
would
not see any of that
completely
stuff.
agree. I hadn't
See?
heard that, and I
Yeah.
absolutely would join that social network.
Right.
Um,
So I wish it would happen faster, but I do think like, yeah, over time, man, a good post on LinkedIn that's actually authentic does so well now because so
yeah.
many things are that exact pattern of like, you know,
I mean, I think we talked about this a little too offline,
yeah,
but like I think LinkedIn is like the worst offender,
I
which makes
do, but
sense. It's
yeah.
the same reason that like your friend was going to it for recommendations about their boss is because like it's a professional context. It's the one where you want to be most guarded. It's the one where
Mhm.
even before ChatGPT, we would like, I remember I like worked at this startup consulting firm 12 years ago, and which is well before ChatGPT, and like we had a rule that we would um everybody always had the right to go to somebody else to like read over a client email. Like you could always ask for a second pair of eyes because we were a consulting firm.
Yeah.
Our reputation was our bread and butter. And like we wanted to be very careful about what we said. But like AI, I think two things. So AI has made that way too easy. Right? And then at least when it's another person reviewing your content, and I'd love to get your perspective on because we talked about more about like the generative part, the generation of a script or an idea, but like then as like the editor,
Oh.
even then, it's like, you at least had another human with taste and
Mhm.
preferences and ideas, reviewing and editing. Like there doesn't mean that there's like one right answer. Like I mean, except for like maybe spelling mistakes, but
Yeah.
they're gonna give their taste and input, and then you're gonna come up with something that fits, makes sense for both of you. And then two, which I guess is kind of related, is ChatGPT is just like a generic version of like it's the first of all, it's the I mean, all LLMs are essentially the same model. So
Yeah.
everybody is getting the exact same advice. And that advice is the average, which by definition is like almost kind of boring, of everything that is out there already on the internet. So like even for the edit, I've whenever I ask ChatGPT to edit something for me now, I say, "Do not rewrite this.
I do too.
List out one by one the
Yep.
changes you would recommend," and then I force myself to, like, go in and see if I agree with them.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I have a lot of thoughts on it as an editor, but I already made my point about smoothing language
Yeah.
usually not being a good thing. Um, First of all, just in what you just said, I feel like what LLMs have done in this sort of sea of content is like raise the bar for what bad writing is. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like we have perhaps less of a you get my point. Like there you don't see any like truly terribly like impossible to even get through reading anymore. Sorry, writing anymore. But at the same time like I think it's almost sharpened the contrast between mediocre writing and great writing. Or
Yeah.
even just forget writing, like content, a post on LinkedIn, like something that
Yeah.
actually hits versus bullshit, which is what it
Yeah.
is. I also wonder how much, and this is just my conspiracy brain, like how much was ChatGPT trained on LinkedIn? Like, don't they have, does an OpenAI have a cozy relationship with Microsoft? I don't know, but who owns LinkedIn? But like, boy, if like a lot of what ChatGPT writes now or generates now sounds a lot like a crappy LinkedIn post.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I'm sure they scraped content from LinkedIn.
yeah, I just sounds like LinkedIn to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, in terms of ChatGPT
Yeah.
as an editor, it's really interesting because it actually fooled me for a bit. I would give it, especially sketches, like just 5-page sketches and being like thoughts. Cause I'm just interested to see like how it digests my work, you know? And AI rarely find it helpful, but sometimes, it certainly can find like a technical error. But I've also
Why?
given
Why?
it,
Why? Why don't you find it?
oh gosh, great question. Let me think about this. Um, it usually tries to pitch a joke and it's usually not very funny.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want, it would take me a second, but I could pull some up and show you, but it would take me a minute. It usually tries to pitch a joke. It often will.
I mean, because we can edit this, so feel
Yeah,
free to. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if I can actually. Let's see. My
I'm gonna, while you do that, I was thinking I'll look for, yeah, I recently asked it, um, for relationship advice, or sorry, texting advice. And so it's, I was dealing with a guy that I haven't actually met yet. And, he was, and sometimes I get into these weird situations, especially living in Spain, where like um, but culturally, like the planning situation is not always on. Like in the U.S., I am not a planner. I am like go with the flow. I I'm fine being spontaneous. In Spain, I'm like German. I'm like um asking people to commit to a date like the day before
yeah,
is really, really difficult. And so like it's not even an interesting um thing that I and maybe we'll cut this out because I don't remember exactly what I asked it, but
yeah,
I what did I say? I was saying that the guy got offended because I wasn't responding or chatting with him initially, which is true. And then I sent it like the conversation um we sent the conversation that we had, and it gave me like a few different options, but like it said if I was unsure if I wanted to meet him, I should say, I hear you. Our styles are a bit different. I'm light on texting, but I do show up. Let's keep it simple. See you Sunday at 4. After that, we can check in about what pace of, of communication works for both of us.
oh man,
Like,
oh my god,
what? Like, it can't pick up on the fact that, um, like this is a casual conversation.
right,
It's not like,
totally,
and then I said I was like, it's more that I kind of want to be like casual and jokey about this, blah blah blah. So I'm just gonna pick a random one. Deal, son. 4. Also, we haven't met, and I'm already getting scolded. You flaked. I took the blame. Madrid won. Madrid won. Me 0. Sweaty, like smiling face.
sweaty smiley, yeah,
Next time we
shit.
just text if plans change. It's just so bad. It's so bad.
I just feel like, I mean, I totally get why you're doing it, and it's also hilarious. It is weirdly comparable to how I use it to help with creative work because I'm kind of just trolling it at this point. But
And me too, because I've done
yeah,
this enough.
no, that's what I mean.
I know,
Exactly.
but like
Yeah,
Madrid won me 0 as like a jokey response to like a sort of stressful, not stressful, but like a delicate text exchange with somebody that I might go on a date with who I haven't met yet.
yeah,
Like it's almost hysterical.
it is. It actually. I will say this. I don't think ChatGPT. I will say this. I don't think ChatGPT is funny when it's trying to make a joke. I do think it's funny inadvertently pretty often,
All
actually.
the time. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, let me see. Okay. Can I share a screen on this?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it worth it? Let's see. If not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Send me. I don't know if I can do this, but send me the screenshot afterwards, and maybe I can do like an
I
overlay.
think I can share a screen.
Okay, do it. Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know how much you'd want to show this. Look at all. What do I have over here?
This is
Oh,
actually
man.
great. There's some sort of content series in this, and just getting
Yeah.
people to share their.
So let's see. So I gave it see how many pages it is. A 5-page script, which is longer than it should be, frankly. This is a fake movie trailer for essentially like a Fatal Attraction type horror movie, but it's Alexa is in love with like her, is obsessed with and turns violent against her owner, basically, right? And it's a good sketch. I've had a bunch of people read it and give good feedback, right? It's fine. I'm not here to be like, this is the perfect sketch and all this feedback is
Yeah.
wrong. Let's see. So I asked it for strengths and weaknesses. I said, I did say don't rewrite anything reflexively because I always do. I'm not even going to read the strengths because it's just sucking up to me. But like, this one's kind of funny. Use of tech details feels grounded. Routines, smart lights, connected to the internet, Amazon pharmacy, all feel plausibly Alexa-ish. Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Trailer rhythm works. Well, that's great. Okay, great. Weaknesses, opportunities. Oh, how funny. Okay, this is not good feedback. So at one point in the middle, and I assure you when you see the final, it will make you laugh. It's one of the funnier parts. But the like movie announcer voice clarifies like from a guy who saw the movie Her on a plane, and fell asleep during Fatal Attraction. Something like that, right?
Funny,
From the people who.
Yeah.
And not only is that important, like from a comedic structure craft perspective, to kind of underline the joke you're making at some point, not too much, but to kind of be like, yes, audience, because it like the person watching it almost certainly knows that already, and to do it in a funny way like that and call it out, this sort of like, oh, I did get it anyway. But what it's saying here essentially is that because I actually call it out, like maybe not being original enough. So like.
Which is like it's like you're missing that's the
right.
entire point.
This is a parody, correct? Yeah. The insult register might read harsh for some audiences, right? Because she calls Siri a fat little slut. Yeah, I just think this is wrong. Like, I think it's funny that I have a little smart speaker glowing blue and it calls Siri a slut. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's also just like boring feedback, which is, I imagine when you're like want feedback on something creative, it's like that's the opposite.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's horrible at this, but not the point. By the way, I do this, what I'm doing right now, because every now and then it at least gives me something to think about. Carl is mostly a prop rather than a comedic point of view. That's correct, but it's not a problem. Like, not only is this a short sketch where you need like their are characters that are just meant to bounce things off, right?
Yeah.
But it's a freaking trailer. It's like a 2-second thing, right? Trevor's agency is minimal by design. Okay. I mean, again, okay. I don't want to get too crafty, so feel free to cut this out. But a sketch is really meant to be one central comedic idea and playing it out, as opposed to like an episode of television. So yeah, no, he never really tries anything beyond leaving begging. That's right. You know what I mean? Like at the end, maybe you have a twist, but like that's just how you write a sketch.
Yeah.
Then it shows a corruption at no, I'm all set. No, it doesn't.
Does it realize, or did it know, or like that it's a sketch versus a
Yes.
Yeah,
it does. And I told it that too. But here, I can go ahead and give it some feedback on this and just say like, because this is, or I'll say like, in a sketch like this, you really don't want to stray. Sorry, is it fun to watch me type?
Go for it.
Yeah, from the central idea, it's I don't want to be mean. That's the point. See what it says. I'll probably be like, you're right.
Yeah, it's going to agree with you. And then I mean, very often, well, it was like, then give you the opposite advice, and you're like,
Yeah,
how
exactly.
do I trust anything you're saying?
Yeah. It was a craft level observation. The game is, I mean, it's using the right language. It does understand. I mean, it understands.
But
It knows
that's
how to,
the
yeah.
well, but I think that's often what it does. It's like a superficial, like it
Hmm.
knows. I mean, and that is literally how it was trained on language, and it has to infer the deeper meanings from that training, but
Yes.
it's not human. Like I think we don't really understand how we do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Did you see
and
what it says though, by the way?
oh,
It says
sorry,
the
no, I
only
didn't.
place it says the only place this even faintly matters is if you wanted to expand the world beyond a trailer format, where you might. That's correct, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, agreed. You need to give multi dimensions to a character, but that's not what this is. So
yeah,
it literally says, so in sketch terms, you've protected the game. My note is more of a, if you ever blow this out into a longer piece. Okay, buddy.
yeah. It's like okay, a
So there
defensive
you go.
mark, but yeah.
Yeah, which it doesn't.
Um,
I mean, thanks for the read. I would say the thing I want to highlight about this that's perhaps more interesting and more problematic and maybe more interesting to viewers slash listeners is that I've given it longer scripts and asked for feedback, and it will give what looks like feedback. Um, and then the first time I ever did that, I probably like went back and forth for an hour on it, and then it started referencing a character that didn't exist.
mm,
And so I was like, wait, what? What? I was like, there's no one named Sheila in here or whatever. And it was like, oh, you're right. There isn't. And I was like, and then I was like, can you tell me what your 10 favorite jokes were from this script? And it did. And only the first two were real. The rest were
wow.
completely fabricated. And the further it went down, the more they went away from what actually happened.
Yeah.
And then I just kept asking it things sort of like, what's the last scene? You know what I mean? What happens here? And this was like a big realization day for me. So I kept poking holes, and finally I was like, did you read the whole thing? And it was like, no. I only read the first, yeah, it was like, I only read the first 5 pages and then guessed the rest. It said it better than that, but not really. You know what I mean?
That's wait,
Yeah.
that what that's I mean, and I mean, of course, you don't even really know if it's is that true or not. Like what I mean, what does it even mean to read? But like I imagine at some point it had to actually process those words because that's how it but that it just yeah, I have heard that it tries to be efficient with like resources and it will cheat in that way. Like it will come up with a hack to answer your question rather than processing everything
Yep.
that so maybe it's that. But that's wow, that's interesting. Um uh in the spirit of moving these on, because there are a few other things I
Please do.
wanted to touch. So I feel like so we've talked a lot about the downsides of using AI in writing.
Hmm.
I feel like you also had interesting examples of some of like the hype
Hmm.
or hyperbole you've seen.
Hmm.
I think often unwarranted. Of like where people in creative fields think that it's going to, be able to change things or replace things or yeah.
Yeah. I sent you the Ankler article, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
you did.
Yes. I think that was from the summer. So you can edit that out. Sorry. So this summer, a article it was right whenever I guess ChatGPT 5 came out, whenever that was. This industry publication, The Ankler, which I normally think is good, put out a newsletter. It was, it's called something terrible, like how AI is eating writers' rooms or something. But it was wild. Like, first of all, clearly the entire thing was written by ChatGPT, but that's neither here nor there for purposes of this. Um, but it claimed all this crazy stuff that just like isn't happening. It was like, um, basically like people's assistants don't need to actually read scripts anymore. They just put it through ChatGPT 5, which, as I just explained to you,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it can't really read a whole script.
yeah.
um it was just making the point that like, an assistant who would read it and give a summary, which they would call coverage, to give to their boss to evaluate. And what was the other one? That showrunners don't need writers anymore to like do a polish or like fix the tone on something, because they literally quote like can feed an entire season's worth of scripts into GPT-5, and it can give you, a season arc, any number of things that it would take like real writers a lot of work and time to do. And like, boy, man, I don't doubt that there was some like gossip floating around one or more studios that this tool would be able to do that, or whether that kind of rhetoric came from OpenAI and was being pushed to
Yeah.
those people. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But like, I can tell you, like, none of that, like, it can't do those things. I know it can't. And when
Yeah.
I talk to TV writers, they're like, of course not. Right. So I don't know. I found that actually, so there's a podcast called Script Notes that's very like prominent. It's two screenwriters who do it. They did like a whole segment on it because it was just so weird. You know what I mean? Like everyone
Yeah.
was like, wait, what? But it freaked people out because they were like, are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Like if ChatGPT, if you don't need writers, what the
Yeah.
hell? Right. So that, and I think what is happening, unfortunately, because there's a contraction in the industry, and I'm certainly suffering from this, is that there are just far, far, far fewer opportunities to get in the door now.
Yeah.
There just aren't as many entry-level writers' jobs open. So when people hear that something an assistant would normally do, or a lower-level writer might do, like a polish or like, a draft, pitching jokes, all that, when they hear AI can do that, that understandably is like, well, shit. You know what I mean? Here, like the ladder's being pulled up behind people. So,
well, and I mean, I think that, and this is definitely something that you see you hear in tech,
coding.
industries that I know much better, because it is decent at coding, although, and offline we talked about this a bit. I do think there are parallels between
Huge.
what it takes to write good code and what it takes to write good writing. And what happens when the systems that we built to like train people, like actual people, stop filling the bottom of the pyramid.
That's a real problem.
Or top of the funnel, or however you want to look at it. And then you like just 10, 15 years from now, like AI hasn't delivered, and we've lost like all of the mid and senior level people that would have otherwise like had this invaluable training from the people that went before them. And like the thing is, like at some point you can't replace that, like the people, I mean, at least for now, people die, like people get too old, like they retire, like I mean, I guess maybe the only saving grace I can think of is like there will be like MOOCs that like teach people to write or something. But that also sounds awful. Like you need like coaches. You need
absolutely. Yeah. Agreed with all of that. I think that is a huge problem. I mean, I'm thinking back, this is just in advertising, right? Like how I learned how to do a lot of what I did was in completing really like low stakes RFP responses that and doing really basic media plans. And like, boy, is that something, I don't even know if AI is necessary, but like, any sort of tech software can probably do, right? But the act of putting that together helped me understand fundamentals that I would draw upon all the time to do something much, much larger that definitely requires, like a pretty experienced human to do it. So that's very real. Huge concern. I really think the parallels from everything I've heard, coding and writing are kind of incredible how many there are when it comes to this. Like, I think the Rick and Morty storylines are a good example of it gives you something that looks like storylines, but once you actually try to scale that, you know what I mean? It isn't a functional piece of code. You know what I mean? It cannot carry the water of the job it needs to do. I think that's super, super, super interesting. I heard on that the Better Offline podcast, there was an episode about vibe coding.
I just listened to it right before this.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. So you'll probably remember the quote better than I, but it was something like, it's good at creating like a demo piece of code.
I think like demo software.
And I was like,
the point that he makes is that like demo software is something that you create so that it can run for like, 15, 20, 30 minutes, long enough to do a demo. And a demo is, I don't even think he says it in this, but a demo is going to be the happy path. So it's going to be just when you don't ask it to do anything that it's not supposed to do, when you don't kind of test any edge cases, um, does it work? And it's pretty easy to create something that,
Yeah,
well, it's not easy, but it's much easier to create something that
of course.
does that well than to like create a production ready um piece of software, app, code,
Mhm.
whatever. Both because you need to like consider all, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but two that like jump out because you have to deal with like all of the edge cases. Then you also, as you said, you have to assume that like lots of different people are going to use it, and like you need the right security and like infrastructure to support a bunch of people like querying this at the same time
Mhm.
or hitting this at the same time, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And also just like practical UX concerns that you don't find until someone actually starts to use it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
"Oh, I
yeah.
didn't think about that use case," or not even edge case, right? But yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I do think that's really similar. The thing that freaks me out the most, and again, I do think it's short term, but boy, I wish it would move faster. Again, very similar to someone at the studio who's not a writer thinking ChatGPT can do half of this. Uh, are people making business decisions who don't know how to actually do the craft? You know what I mean? Saying like,
Yes.
you can just use this, right? Or you don't need two more engineers. This can handle it, what have you. And it's just like, God, that really sucks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, not only am I delivering a product, ultimately, I'm not feeling good about if that's the way I
Mm.
have to go about it. But yeah, yeah,
Okay, this. I'm gonna go in a little bit of a random direction here,
go for it.
but I'll try to relate it back. One of the things that this makes me think about is the way, and I've really worked most of my career, definitely all of the last decade, in tech and software like Amazon,
Mhm.
Shopify, like companies that are, at least at some point in their trajectory, especially Amazon, began like testing, measuring everything, A B testing
Yeah.
everything to prioritize, to uh, always make the decision that maximizes some very sort of like blunt metric,
Yep.
usually on acquisition or engagement
Yep.
of customers. So keep the people.
As an advertising person, I do
Yes.
understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think the thing though that like for me, a thing that I find very sad is like tech is becoming slash maybe even sort of always was or has been for a very long time only that.
Hmm.
Like there's very little um in my opinion, very little insertion of like the stuff that we were talking before around craft, of taste,
Yeah.
of um, creativity. So before, like, don't even think about AI. We were already creating like kind of, in my opinion, really generic, boring products. And like the reason that people, and I've talked about this on the podcast before for people that have listened, but um, the reason that like people kind of hate social media is because like yeah, like everybody can't stop swiping or uh, doom scrolling, but they know that they're not like getting anything of like
Yeah.
deeper value, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know this, but I feel like most TV like that I watch, like I mean, some of it's like maybe bad, but none of it is like purely like what made the like let's like I don't know. I can imagine some dystopia where like they're just tracking people's eyeballs as they watch a show and they're only making the characters like do things that
Of
like
course.
keep people, and I feel like fortunately entertainment hasn't like been drawn all the way in that direction, but I'm curious, like do you see examples of that? Do you agree with that?
Not yet, but I hear you in terms of that future being possible. I mean, I think newer studios like Netflix take their viewing data and leverage it to make programming decisions, on new acquisitions, all that stuff. But for whatever reason, I mean, they do it intelligently. And from what I've read and understand, Netflix understands that the way to make good shit is to empower like proven creators. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So maybe they'll have like a broad mandate or something that's like, all right, we need more fantasy element like YA content or whatever it is, or people really like watching things about royals. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They know like not to take it too in the weeds beyond that sort of that broader direction. Just in terms of what I've actually seen made.
Yeah.
I don't know do you know about vertical dramas? Oh,
No.
I can't believe I'm bringing this up. So the boom in town right now, just because like the amount of actual like good TV shows that are being made has plummeted,
Yeah.
is like kind of like soap operas, but for 2025. So vertical just means vertically shot for a phone.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it's kind of like what Quibi was trying to do. Just this sort of like shorter, like really, really soapy, dramatic, not particularly good
Yeah.
content, but like is sort of addictive and people keep watching it.
Yeah.
There's been a real boom in that, which is super interesting. But so there's that. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that is chasing what I would call low quality attention,
Yeah.
and just sort of like, I don't know. I think a good piece of television or movie really makes you feel something and like takes you
But
away.
yes,
You
like
know what I mean?
I wish that we had tech products that did the same. And so
Well,
many
we did the iPhone, but we haven't like
well, so
honestly.
yeah, I know, and
Yeah.
this is the example, like, people will use Apple, but I think Apple is by far the exception and not the rule in tech. And it was like that, I mean, from what you hear at least, because of Steve Jobs and, like, how
100%. Yes.
obsessive he was about his creative vision,
That's
right?
right.
And you already see Apple kind of straying from that.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think you have. I mean, I look. I've worked in many tech companies. All of them have UX designers. Some of them are brilliant.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and they do. I want to say that nobody is like holding up this like torch or whatnot, whatever the expression is. Um, uh, um, but they just don't have a loud enough voice, and like they're going to lose in every case to like what the data says. So you don't have like, I mean, I even think about like cars, yeah, there's just very functional cars, but then there's like beautiful craftsmanship. There are, um, you know, both from an engineering standpoint and from a aesthetic standpoint, like cars that are, um, you have Audis, but which is already good, but you have like I'm not a car guy. I'm just gonna reveal that right now. You have like Ferraris and Mercedes, and even not being a car guy, like I get into like a nicer car, like a
Yeah.
BMW, and I'm like, holy shit, this is beautiful. Like
Yeah.
maybe not always, but often. Or I mean, I think the fashion and luxury goods in general are great example of this. Like, yes, you have your business person, but you
Mhm.
also have like at the top a creative
Yep.
director that is like an artist in a way.
Yes.
And we don't have that sense of craft
Yeah.
represented. Or everything is just like message tested. It's like why people hate politicians now is because like
I know.
everything is message tested and it's fucking boring. And to be honest, I think that's why people like Trump a bit, because at least he's not bad.
Absolutely. It's funny. Did you see all the Trump Mamdani meeting stuff?
I didn't see all of it, but
You need to actually watch every
I
second of it, and I'm not.
but I loved what I saw.
It's so remarkable in so many ways. Um, it's watching two like generational like political talents. Like as
Yeah,
much as obviously I'm no fan of Trump, but
yeah,
like yeah, he was like cutting through the bullshit and saying something ChatGPT certainly wouldn't say, and that is why
yeah,
people liked him.
yeah,
And Mamdani too. He's remarkable. You hear him speak and you're like moved, and
yeah,
I think everything you just said about luxury goods, cars, etc., things being beautiful, they're remarkable. Uh, they're not the normal thing. They're not the expected thing. There's this, and that is fundamentally what AI can't do.
And that's what Steve Jobs did too, right? Like
Exactly.
nobody
Yes.
would have imagined that. And I agree with you. This is where we don't, first of all, we don't, and I've said this many times before too, but we don't have a rigorous definition of intelligence or creativity.
Right.
We don't know what makes people able to come up with truly novel things, but we know it happens because like progress happens, right? So like we are creating things that are like new in I think a way that like, is almost provable. But like I feel like I've seen no evidence that AI can do that. It can be very useful in certain ways, but when you talk about creativity, when you talk about the craft, I I don't know, but it would not surprise me if we are barking up the entire wrong tree, like throwing more compute, throwing more.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like maybe that's like I feel like you would say no too, right? Like that you haven't seen any green shoots of. Is there any version of the world where you're afraid of this technology replacing creatives?
Uh, only at very junior, like intern type levels,
Yeah.
which is a problem, as we said.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
For the pipeline. And then only in the short term where the people who are making decisions are just making the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
But no, because it's work to, everything you said. I can't imagine LLMs as they are now. And I don't mean like the current model. I just mean foundationally how they work, right?
Yeah.
Being able to come up with something novel that's sort of the opposite of what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. I agree with
Right? Yeah.
there's a physicist I love, David Deutsch. And I listen to a lot of his stuff, and he's very skeptical. I mean, he's approaching it from like a quantum physicist standpoint, not at all from a necessarily creative standpoint, but he talks a lot about creativity, and he makes that exact point that it's actually I wish I can remember exactly how he says it, but it's actually what they're doing is sort of the opposite of
Yeah.
creative. They're trying to guess the most predictable thing rather than branching off in a million directions and then testing a bunch of stuff and paring it down to the one new thing that works.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point about barking up the wrong tree, I'd never thought of it that way. Why are we pouring money into that version of AI?
Because I mean, I think there are a lot of people. I know, I'm not an AI scientist, but I think there are a lot of people who believe there's this idea of like the scaling laws that a lot of, maybe not everything we have to do, but a lot of what we have to do is just put more and more computing power. By the way, I hate the word compute as
I know.
as a noun.
Yeah.
Like, and I say it now, like,
no, I agree. Yeah.
with jargon in this field and in AI in general. But you just have to put more computing power into the training, into the model, and you're eventually going to get something that can think. And it just, and this David Deutsch's point is like, it's not just the hardware, which is compute power, just throwing more hardware at it. Like it's also the software. It's the stuff that's running, and there's something fundamental missing from that is like another discovery. It's not like we've discovered LLMs and like that's it. There's other things that are needed. And you can even believe, as I'm like a physicalist in that I think that it is probably possible to like simulate, a real human brain, with enough knowledge and enough resources. But I just don't think LLMs are from everything I've seen, and this is more going on my gut, not the science. Although there are people who know more about the science who agree with this, that LLMs are not enough. They're not sufficient to like deliver human level creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've mentioned this offline too, but remember Watson, the computer,
Yeah.
right? Who won Jeopardy.
Yeah.
um, that version of AI, like my understanding is it actually has a knowledge base in whatever form that
Yeah.
takes. And like LLMs fucking don't.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
there are so many, and we won't have time to go into too much of this, but there's so many interesting threads there
Yeah.
because, uh, what was one thing that I heard recently that, so two things that come up. Like humans forget, like we have to, um, learn a bunch of things, but then we pare down the actual useful ones, and actually like having access to everything all the time
Mm.
and not having like pre-weeded out some of the the less and I'm probably getting the theory behind this a little bit wrong, but not having weeded out like the less useful points, right? Like not all like um that there's importance to how that pairing happens and to like
Yes.
what remains. And like we don't force LLMs to do that. They do uh kind of form general impressions, like similar to humans.
Okay.
They are like pattern recognition
Yes.
machines, and I think they are pretty good at that. But then, and this is where not remembering all of the detail from this guy that I read recently, but I'm not even remembering his name. But they do it in a fundamentally different way than humans do, and so like yeah, it's yeah, I completely agree that that's a super interesting point.
Yeah. When you said that, I'm like, if I didn't have judgment on what to keep, that's how you got that Kalshi ad.
How you got what?
That nightmarish Kalshi ad. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yes,
The
yeah,
yeah.
that me, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
It
know why
was
I just connected those two things, but I did. Right? We're just I don't know. It just feels so
yes,
everything
yeah,
thrown at the wall.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That
Man.
is 100%. Okay, so let's try
Yes.
to
Wrap it in,
wind this up. So I am
please.
curious, like,
Mhm.
what if you had to? I'm not gonna hold you to any of this, but if you had to like make some projections or predictions,
Yeah.
like the good version of this and where things go from here in the fields that you work in, be it advertising uh or writing, and like the bad version.
Yeah. I think I touched on this a bit, but I'll elaborate. The the good version of the future with this is that great creative work, and I would say that includes advertising, things that are truly breakthrough that really resonate as novel, become of an even higher value because we as humans crave that more and more because we're getting we're getting so much slop. So,
Wait, just so like you mean like we already had human generated slop, but like this is just gonna like flood the zone
in essence, yeah.
with and so like slop it's gonna cause us to like reject slop and
In
like
essence, yeah.
only prioritize. I hadn't thought of that, but
Yeah.
I can see things going that
Yeah.
way, and I'd love that. Yeah,
Yeah. I do think for your listeners slash viewers, the Kalshi ad is worth watching critically always.
yeah. Give a little bit of detail about what it is.
Yeah, so this is an entirely AI generated ad for is it a poly no, Polymarket's the Polygon one, whatever. It's a crypto-based betting app where you can
Yeah.
go bet on anything. So I'm sure one of the Trump sons owns it or something. But super grifty. But it's I think it's a perfect example of like the best of what a Sora or whatever I forget the name of the Gemini engine for video is.
I'm actually blanking too. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, I think it looks amazing in terms of like, wow, this really looks like real video.
Yeah.
And if you're not looking too closely, same with the Coca-Cola ad, you're like, oh wow, the AI did this. Wow. But if you're it the fact that it's just a montage of scenes with all, like, zero through line
Yeah.
is, I think, what makes it immediately forgettable.
Yeah.
And as a marketer, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I'm letting AI do the creative for my brand and it's just sort of this disjointed montage of like loud, super realistic clips with super saturated colors, like, what is that doing? What is that saying? It's going to be another piece of slop that like we don't want to see anymore as
Yeah.
humans. We're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
who cares? Like, it is so impressive. I do authentically think it's really cool that a computer can make that. I do.
Yeah.
I think there are people who look at that, unfortunately, people in positions of power who go, amazing, we won't need people to do any of this soon. But it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, not to do exactly this. You're right about that. But yeah, I do think like ultimately advertising is trying to make it's to change your opinion, but like also to make you as a consumer remember whatever the hell you just saw.
Yeah.
Right? Remember what the product is, remember what the brand is. And like without consistency and without story or arc, there's just like that's how humans remember things. Like
Yeah.
that is how our brains remember things,
Yeah.
right? Story and like consistency.
And novelty,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Well, that's what gets our attention, I would say. What
yeah.
makes a memory is
Yeah,
yes, but
fair, yeah,
yes.
that's
But
just
still, those are both important. You need those
no, but
for,
I'm just
yeah.
like if the reason I bring that up is because having something that then is just like the least common denominator or like the thing that AI is really good at flooding the airwaves or whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it, flooding the zone with, um like that is going to not be novel, and so you are then going to need actual like creative human beings to come in and like make novel things
Yeah.
that are not predictably AI.
Exactly. I think theoretically, not where it is now, of course. Theoretically, one could have a certain like evolved kind of prompt control where you can be prompting different pieces of the video in different way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? To actually like create more consistency. My guess is that requires more, sorry to trigger you, compute. I can't even say it right. Like that's going to require like literally more electricity and processing power. Then like,
Yeah.
why are we paying for that when a human could have done it? But
Yeah.
you get my point. Yeah. So that's that. I think that's my net. I think the optimistic, happy version is the one where we're like, you know what, all of this slop just makes me want to go to the place where none of it's slop to see
Yeah.
something new and novel and small and creative or big and whatever, right?
Yeah.
The bad version would be, I mean, I think TikTok and the other social networks have already eroded our ability to pay attention to things,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
a problem. I also know people who use ChatGPT so much that it's starting to affect their critical thinking. I think there's been some studies done on that.
I mean, I even I
You feel it? I had too.
anecdotally I
Yeah.
worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been pulling myself back lately too. I also just started timing how long it was taking to do things with ChatGPT and realized it was taking
Not
longer.
saving you more time. Yeah.
No, yeah. But still, like that worries me because I really have seen
Yeah.
a couple people I've worked with where I'm just like, you're just sending stuff out and saying that this is the work that was promised, but this is ChatGPT did this and I can tell. And it's like, it doesn't do what it needs to do. Like this isn't actually a scope of work. For example, like you didn't actually break down what needs to happen.
Yeah.
It looks like it, but it's not that. And I'm like, I'm not sure you can tell the difference anymore. So I
Yeah.
think that's like the dark timeline is where a vast majority of people's brains become like
Yeah.
unable to do the things that we want humans to be able to do.
What in light of uh ending on maybe a more positive note, like
I
for
don't think that's going to happen.
no,
For
no,
what
I
it's worth,
get it. I know, and
yeah,
I posed the question. What for because I feel like AI is not going anywhere.
sure.
So like, is there a version of like the human AI hybrid
Mm.
model? Like, are there the things that AI is doing that are good that like we can like somehow lean into, or to like should we just reject it and like go back to like not using AI at all?
Boy, I lean toward the latter, but let's see. I find it sometimes helpful. Um I do think like Gemini can actually work for certain kinds of research, for me at least. And that's faster than if I had gone and looked myself sometimes. So I could see a world where, as a writer, you do a lot of research, honestly. So like some of those tasks, even though I think currently they're given to assistants or more junior writers. So back to that problem, but whatever.
Yeah.
That sometimes I can get bad ideas from ChatGPT that can kick my brain into, okay, well, that doesn't work, but what about this?
Yeah.
So like something about, and maybe it's my ADHD, but something about seeing what I didn't want, like gives me a little energy to actually like use my brain to find out what I did want.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there's something there that maybe could be accelerated seriously, like something that actually like helps your brain get going. I could see that. Yeah. I mean, that's it for now. Like I said, I'm open to it. I think, Mike, I've never found a product that was able to kind of help me organize the mess in my brain, except for like my whiteboard. When I'm trying to like tackle a big project or come up with a new creative idea, whatever it is. ChatGPT is awful at that, unfortunately, because of the context window. But if there were something that we're able to kind of take all of the pieces and capture them better and summarize it without making shit up like they currently do, I could see something like that helping too. Yeah, so we'll see.
Fair enough.
I like, what was it? Super Normal, a partner of mine uses for, just for meetings, for Zooms, right?
Okay.
And I think it A, transcribes everything, but B, it creates a pretty good summary with action items.
Yeah.
And that's helpful for anyone. So I could see.
No, but and this is what I see too. It's like fairly like low level tasks that it is.
What the assistant would do. Take notes in the meeting and tell us what to do, which again creates a huge problem for trading people. But
yeah. No, it's true.
Should get working. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for that. That was great. Yeah, actually, there are a few topics we didn't get to, so maybe we can record another one of these.
Would love it. Anytime. I love talking about this stuff. I remain optimistic, but I will say, like, it's like I feel crazy sometimes, especially in a work context, when people talk about what especially ChatGPT can do. Oh, we'll just have ChatGPT do it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, and that I think that plugging it into like the example you just gave with note taking, like we're gonna see it plug in more and more. I think it already has to some low level tasks like that. But yeah, it's certainly nowhere near replacing all of the tasks that humans do in any job.
Yeah, I haven't. I have yet to find much value. I had to really search just then. What I see is people who have like adjacent subject matter expertise, so they like can kind of prompt to get something that looks like the right thing, but then they don't know that the output isn't at all good or isn't functional. So we'll see. I hope that anything that can help with that gap would be good.
Okay. Well,
I love the convo. So fun.
I think we always have a healthy skepticism. Whenever me and Thomas, my business partner, whenever we're thinking about and talking about AI, but I work in tech, and there's a lot of hype, right? And so, and to a degree, it is also like part of the product that I'm trying offer that I'm trying to build.
Yeah,
but I want to be realistic with clients about what it can actually do. And I think it's that these conversations, fortunately, I'm seeing more and more of them, but I think they're really important because there are a lot of limits.
Yeah, I think humans fundamentally want to believe that nobody wants to look stupid.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to be left behind. We don't want to, I do think there's a fear of like, if I'm not in awe of what this can do, I'll look stupid.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be left behind, but then at some point the emperor has no clothes and it gets pulled out.
That perfect metaphor for this, right? I think you're right. I think I'm seeing more and more conversations and people are coming back down to earth in terms of what it can do, which is what I'd prefer. I'd like everyone to be excited about the possibility of building something awesome and good for humanity and helpful instead of whatever the hell fever dream.
I agree with that. I think it's a great note to close on.
That's what I was
So,
going for.
yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you so much. This is great.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.